Today I'm going to talk about LeetCode question number 287, find a duplicate number. So given an array of integer nums containing n plus 1 integers, where each integer is in the range 1 to n inclusive, there is only one repeated number in nums. Return this repeated number. You must solve the problem without modifying the array nums and uses only constant extra space. So because of this only constant extra space constraint, we can't use a dictionary to store elements we've seen as we traverse through the array, and if we've already seen that element, then return that. And we can't modify the array, so you can't do a method like this where based on the value, we visit the index for that same value. So we see the value 1, we see index, we look for index 1 and then negate it. And if index is already negated, then we already visited that index and the value is repeated. But we can explore that a bit more. So notice how each integer is in range 1 and n. Okay, so position 0 will never be visited again. So this is basically going to be our starting point. Okay. So at index 0, we have the value 1, and then if we visited position index 1, we see the value 3. Visit index 3, we find 2. Visit index 2, we find 4, and then we find 4, and then we see index. We see at index 4, we see the value 2 again. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So basically, we found the cycle, and in the cycle, we found 2 twice. We visited 2 twice, or yeah. So basically, in this cycle, what it means is at index 2. At index 3 we find 2, and index 4 we find another 2. Okay, so that's duplicated 2. And notice this beginning of the cycle. Okay, it's the beginning of the cycle in this linked list because 2 nodes are pointed at it. Okay, so how can we detect the cycle? Well, we can use a tortoise hare method, where basically tortoise and hare are 2 pointers, and a hare it jumps 2 spaces ahead, 2 spots ahead, while the tortoise only jumps 1 spot ahead. And if they eventually meet at a node, then we find a cycle. But that method doesn't exactly tell us when we found the beginning of the cycle. But how we can detect if we found the beginning of the cycle is a modification of tortoise hare. So let's just do the regular tortoise hare right now. So if we're at the head here, okay, so then tortoise hare, so tortoise goes 1 spot, hare goes 2 spots, hare goes 1, 2 spots, tortoise goes 1 spot, and we found our cycle. Okay, we just happened to get lucky and found the beginning point of the cycle, but really to verify, to actually find the beginning of the cycle is for one of the pointers, tortoise or hare, we reset it to beginning of the linked list. Well, let's say we put hare here, okay, and hare is not going to have the same hare behavior as before. So it's like tortoise, it's only going to go 1 spot at a time. Okay, so now hare and tortoise, we're going to increment them 1 spot at a time. So tortoise here, hare here, tortoise back here, hare here. Now they meet. This is the beginning of our linked list cycle. And that's how we're basically going to do this in our array. So initially, hare and tortoise are going to start here at the very first position. and then the hair is going to jump 2 spots forward every time, so it's going to be like nums hair. Okay, it's going to jump 2 indexes at a time, and tortoise is going to jump 1 index at a time. Okay, and then we're going to do this to find the cycle. And once we find a cycle, what we're going to do is basically do this method where one of the pointers starts at the very beginning, and each pointer goes one by one until we find an intersecting point, and that's where we find the beginning point, the entry point of this cycle. And this will be of n runtime of 1 space. And why this exactly works, there's a mathematical proof behind it. You can look it up on your own, but yeah, just know that this method of finding the cycle and finding the entry point of the cycle works. Okay, now to code it up. So initially, I'm gonna have my pointers toward this equal beginning of the array, and hair is gonna be at the beginning of the array also. Okay. So while 1, okay, we're just gonna do while 1 here. So we're guaranteed a cycle at least, because all the integers appear only once except for one integer where it appears 2 or more times. Okay, so we're guaranteed a cycle. What we're gonna do is have hair jump 2 indexes at a time, and for this is gonna be jump 1 index at a time. And if tortoise is equal to hair, then we found the cycle. So this just finds the cycle. And now what we're going to do is find the entry point of cycle. Okay. So what we're going to do is reset one of the pointers to back to the beginning. So I'll just do hair here. -0, and while hair does not equal tortoise, we're going to increment each of these only once. Only 1 index at a time. Okay, and yeah, so eventually this while will break out of this while loop once hair is equal to tortoise, and once that happens, we can return either hair or tortoise or whatever else. Return hair. Okay. So yeah, well, let's do a dry run first. Great, I'll use the other test cases. And I'll submit. Okay, great. Thanks for watching.